I want my fellow Canadians, and to be honest with you, members of the global community at large, to really pay attention to me, okay? These are just some tips that I thought of on how to make these next few days and, God forbid, weeks go by a lot smoother. I'm mainly speaking to Canadians because you all are my people, and we have to stick together and look out for our neighbors, but also make sure that we are also taken care of as well. By the way, just a quick update, the government has gone forward to closing the borders in Canada. So the only people who can enter Canada from a foreign country are Canadians, whether they are citizens or landed residents, or Americans. That's it. And the reason why Americans are is because we share a land border, and it would just make things completely complicated. People live in America and work in Canada, and vice versa. So we're practically two countries. So it really, I do think though that the next step should be closing the border between Washington State and BC, but that's just because Washington State is in such a big mess right now. But these are my tips to make sure this goes smooth. Number one, we're going to get through this, okay? People acting like this is World War II. I mean, we got over World War II as well, okay? The world has been through a lot worse. And when I think of complaining or thinking this is bad, I think back to my grandparents. I mean, look at our grandparents, our great grandparents. They went through World War One. They went through the Great Depression, and they went through World War II. All right? And if they can go through all of that, I mean, Britain was bombed to the Stone Ages. Germany blew up London and all these different places. They were rationed. It was much worse. And I mean, people who lived in Manhattan during 9/11. So if mankind can go through things like that, we can go through a little bit of coronavirus. So let's all calm down. Don't let the media scare you. Okay? Their job is to get ratings, and ratings makes money. Okay? That's their job. They have to do that. And while coronavirus is very serious, I'm not downplaying it. I do have my deep suspicions of its origins and who's benefiting from it, but we're not talking about that right now. We all know the story. Let's forget about that right now. Just think to yourself, flu can also kill people too. And I'm not saying, I mean, coronavirus is pneumonia, basically. It's a little bit higher than the flu. If the media were to report on all the people who ended up getting flu or dying from flu, we'd all be tearing ourselves apart, okay? So this is not the first virus that we're going to see, and it's not going to be the last, okay? So that's number one. Do not let the media scare you. Number two, and this is very important, and this, I really can't emphasize this enough. For all of you who are going to the stores and just taking every last bit of item off the shelves, like as if y'all have lost your mind, toilet paper and meat, and just taking every last thing and fighting over it and killing each other over it. You need to stop that, and you need to stop that immediately. You think you're being smart, but actually you're being dumb, and you're also being selfish. You're being actually very selfish, and I've actually, honestly, I'm pretty close to maybe even advocating for rationing at the grocery store, because this is not something that's going to destroy us all like this. This is not the apocalypse. This isn't Hiroshima bomb. This isn't any of that stuff. It's not any of that stuff at all. And what you're doing when you do that is you are potentially robbing very vulnerable people who have to be in quarantine, seniors, children, people with illnesses, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart problems, people with very bad immune systems who have to be quarantined and who rely on caretakers or children or grandchildren to go to the stores and stuff. You're robbing them of vital supplies. And make no mistake about it, people are doing that, and it's a lot more than I even thought. And you need to stop that. You need to stop that. I think you're selfish. I think you're disgusting if you do that. And if you continue doing it, I don't have any respect for you. You're crazy. You're acting like you're losing your mind, and you're not doing it to be smart. It's almost like people like that are doing that to show off. They're trying to be melodramatic. They're trying to be climactic. It's like there are some people in this world who are genetically designed to be completely over the top. But at times like this, when people, you need to allow other people to get supplies as well. Don't be that one person who's going to completely take everything off the shelves. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's wrong, and it's not right. It's not right. The third thing I would very much like to emphasize is refrain from traveling. And that's not to put fear in people. I'm not here to make you afraid. I mean, if we want to talk about the context of other nations which have the capability of producing these type of viruses, then yes, be afraid and be very afraid. And not only be afraid, and not be afraid in the sense that you curl up in a ball and hide and capitulate, but fight. Fight your politicians. Fight the people who have power and tell them, listen, these things, this can't happen anymore. If some market in China, if China can actually allow this to happen and disrupt everything, there need to be consequences. So in that sense, we need to be reactionary. But the reason I say don't travel is because it's going to be very, very difficult for individuals, particularly those who are doing international travel, to enjoy their travels with this stuff going on. In many countries, there are people in Europe right now, Canadians, Americans, who are trying to get back to Canada, to the United States, and they can't because there's no planes. It's not that they're not allowed. Canada can't stop a Canadian from coming back to Canada. You want to come, you can come. If you want to swim across the Atlantic, go ahead. But there's no planes. Planes have stopped service. It's not in your best interest to not heed the advice not to travel. Not necessarily because we have to all be afraid and cow down. And I'm going to get to something in a minute. But because it won't be in your best interest, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. Even if you do travel somewhere, Mexico, Jamaica. There's this one girl on my Facebook. I won't say any names. And she's, when this thing came out, my travel plans they're disrupted now. My travel plans are disrupted. I mean, you can go ahead if you want, but what I'm saying is that the world is in such a state right now that let's say you land in Mexico. You decide you're going to go to a nice resort. All these prices are very cheap and everything like that. You go there. What's most likely going to happen is that all the resorts are going to be closed. The beaches are going to be closed. All the restaurants are going to be closed. And you're going to not have a very nice time. And what else are you going to do? Just sit there in Mexico. I mean, it's not going. This is not the time for luxury right now. It's a time to just chill. Just chill. Just chill. Everybody needs to just chill. Okay? That's the message I'm trying to advocate right now for the time being. Just chill. Okay? So there's no point going off somewhere and then end up being very disappointed, and then you decide you want to try and come back, and you can't come back because there's no airplane, there's no any way for you to get back because there's no airplanes going back to where you come from. But even if you do end up coming back, most likely, and I've heard that some of these airports are being very sloppy, they're not checking people and stuff. Okay, that's fine, but you're most likely to get a very hard time at immigration at the border. It's not going to be easy. So just refrain from trying. Even I myself, I have family in the United States. I was born here in Canada, raised in Canada. I have U.S. citizenship. I'm dual. I go to America almost every weekend to see my family. I'm not going to risk going across that border. You must be out of your dang mind. I'm not going to. I mean, I can go to America. No one can stop me. that could go to the border and pee all over the border, man. He has to let me in. But the fact of the matter is, why am I going to put myself through that? And same with Canada as well. No one can stop me, but people want to make sure that everybody is safe. So why would I even risk anything like that? So that's my thing. Just refrain from traveling internationally, nationally, even city to city. If you want to go for a little drive, I know it's nice out. Go ahead. Don't have to stay locked up in your house all day. Go for a drive. Go do stuff. I mean, if you're in Italy, you really can't do that, which I think is ridiculous. And that's the next thing. My final advice, and this is not fear, but this is to be vigilant. Vigilant of your government. And I really don't want people to be afraid. But here's what I see. Every time there is a huge global crisis that happens, these governments use it to try and take away as many freedoms as they can. And that's under the guise of keeping us safe. It happened with 9/11. It happened with all kinds of different things. And they're trying to do it now too. And I just want people to be vigilant and be vocal too. Tell people, write your government, call your members of Congress or Parliament or whatever, you're members of the Legislative Assembly. Tell them, listen, we will accept our schools being closed. We will accept non-essential places like cinemas and restaurants. Okay, fine. But don't tell us that we have to stay in our homes and be stuck here under house arrest for God knows when. Because there comes a point where the government uses crises to try to take away our freedoms. And when we're distracted, that's when they are doing things behind the scenes. So really, this is the time to pay attention. Pay attention to what the legislations are coming through. Many politicians and prime ministers and premiers and presidents are going to come out with documents in your face and legislation that's going to go through the legislative assemblies. Make sure you pay attention to these things. Pay very close attention. What do these things mean? How are they going to benefit me? They're going to disguise it as, well, we're here to make things better, make you safe, make it easier. Be careful, okay? And one of the big things that I want people to be aware of is, in the next few days, I predict that the government and World Health Organization, UN, all these people, Big Pharma, they're going to come out with a nice big vaccine, coronavirus vaccine. And the media will report on it, and everybody will celebrate that vaccine is here. Let's party up in the streets. This whole thing is over. You guys, I'm telling you, this is a time when these crises happen. This is the time to be very vigilant. I'm already vigilant, but it's time to be extra vigilant. Listen, you guys, the media has done a very good job at painting people who are skeptical of viruses as crazy, as criminal and all this stuff. But let me tell you something. And, I don't take flu shots. There have been many studies that have come out from people who are very medically cleared and went to the best schools and are highly qualified, who say, flu shots, these type of vaccines, they lower the immune system and it makes you more vulnerable to viruses. Many of these vaccines have chemicals in them. Some of them help you in one way, but they can destroy you in other ways. Really, we need to be careful. We need to really police our government, because this is the time when they usually like to come up with things under the guise of it'll make everything that, people create a big old panic. Everybody's afraid, and then the government comes in and brings in something that's supposed to make it all better, but in reality, it makes things far worse. So we have to be vigilant. We have to be smart. And as I say again, and you're going to hear this from everybody under the sun, wash your hands. Use hand sanitizer. Don't touch the doorknobs with your bare hands. Don't pump gas with your bare hands. Don't push elevator buttons with your bare hands. Don't touch anything with your bare hands. Use your sleeve. Use a glove. Just be sensible. Be clean, okay? And one other thing that I want to say before I end this is, This is a bad thing that's happening to the Western world, but in one sense, it's kind of humbling because think about this. People in many very, very dirt poor third world nations, they go through this on a daily basis. I mean, you can go to some very poor Asian or African country or some very down and out Caribbean. I mean, there are many countries that suffer from these diseases. The governments don't have the medicine for it, and as a result, people panic and or lose their jobs and all sorts of things like this. This thing happens to the third world on a daily basis. So I don't know. Maybe God is trying to tell the people of the West, listen. You've had it great for so long. Have a little taste of what it's like on the other side. So, just chill, be sensible, don't act stupid, think of others, and watch your government. And this is the Arana Coronavirus Free Nation.